Okay, so this topic is about the blood and the lymphatic vessels. The first objective we need to look at is we need to be able to describe the structure and function of veins, capillaries, and arteries. So that's what they look like and what they do. Arteries are wide. They carry blood from the heart to limbs and organs. Blood is oxygenated except the pulmonary artery. They've got a small lumen, which is the hole in the middle where the blood travels. That creates high pressure. So that's structure and function. Thick walls of elastic tissue and muscle fibers help to withstand high pressure. So again, that's structure and function. They divide into arterioles, which are smaller, and these divide into capillaries. Capillaries are tiny, very tiny. The walls are only 1 cell thick. They're 1 cell thick so that they can have a short distance for exchange of substances, again structure and function. They're permeable, they can let liquid through them, but not red blood cells because they're too big. Red blood cells cannot pass through capillaries. Liquid can escape due to the high blood pressure that there is, which is good because that's what happens in the kidneys. Has a dense network, so all the cells have a supply of oxygen and glucose, and they then after that join to form venules, which combine to make veins. The veins take blood from the body to the heart, and there's less pressure than arteries. They've got a wide lumen and thinner walls. Because of that, they don't need thick walls, they don't need muscular walls, because there's not that much pressure. They have valves to prevent backflow, and they're very similar to the SL valves, so there's no tendons. The blood is deoxygenated, apart from, again, the pulmonary vein, and it contains less food because it's just being used up for respiration. The vena cava is the main vein of the body, and there's 2 types of the inferior and superior. The pulmonary vein comes from the lungs. There's 2 of them because there's 2 lungs. This just shows the typical vessels and their structure. Again, thick walls, elastic fibers and muscle for the arteries, small lumen. High pressure can withstand the high pressure. Lumen of the vein is large and therefore it has thin walls. Mostly fibrous tissue, not a great deal of elastic fibers and muscle in the vein. The capillary is 1 cell thick. Red blood cells only just fit through and they can't get through the walls, but other fluids can. This just shows the structure of a capillary. It says that the white blood cells can squeeze out of the gaps in the capillary walls. This is to aid in the immune response. Now, to explain how the structure is adapted to their function. Now, arteries have high pressure that fluctuates with every beat, and the pressure wave is felt as a pulse, and it's created by the heart when it contracts. Capillaries then decrease the pressure of the blood as they resist the blood flow, and so they slow it down. The veins collect the blood at the lower pressure from the capillaries and then return it to the heart using valves. Now, in terms of keeping a balance of pressure, you use negative feedback, which you don't need to know about, but it's a process that keeps the blood pressure at a fairly constant level. You need it reasonably high for the kidneys to carry out filtration, but then if it's too high, it can cause heart attacks. This is just a table to summarize what I've just told you about the structure and the function. You need to learn that. The next thing I want to talk about is the arterioles. Now, they're a little less elastic than the arteries. They're like mini versions of the arteries. When the muscles contract, they decrease the size of the lumen and restrict blood flow. This is vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction can regulate blood flow to different parts of the body. The example of vasoconstriction is if the body temperature is low, skin arterioles will contract to vasoconstrict, and that will reduce the blood flow to the skin and therefore reduce heat loss. Okay, there's a picture of that there. The blood travels down the arteriole and comes up here to the skin where it would meet the capillaries, but it vasoconstricts and then the blood diverts back to venules rather than passing through the capillaries. So it completely misses the capillaries and goes straight from arteriole to venules. Now, it uses a shunt vessel to do that. A shunt vessel links the arterioles to the venules and basically bypasses the capillaries. Venules are similar again to veins, but they're smaller. They have a large lumen, which lowers resistance to blood flow, which is good because they haven't got a lot of pressure, so they're going to need blood flow, and they've got valves. They then join to veins. Next thing we need to know is where vessels lead to and where they come from. I'm not going to talk about the heart and lungs because we've done that already. However, in terms of the kidney, the vessel going to the kidney from the heart or the aorta, because that is what leaves the heart essentially, is the renal artery. So that goes to the kidney, and when you leave the kidney to the heart or the vena cava, because that's the thing that goes into the heart, you leave through the renal vein. So you've got a renal artery and a renal vein going to the kidney, coming out of the kidney. The liver, to the liver from the heart or the aorta, is the hepatic artery. The one going to the liver from the gut is the hepatic portal vein. So there's two going to the liver. One is an artery from the heart, one is a vein from the gut, a portal vein. And then from the liver back to the heart is the hepatic vein. So you've got the hepatic artery, the hepatic portal vein, and the hepatic vein. This just shows a picture again to illustrate the circulation flow from the heart to the lungs and to all the body parts. Notice that the renal artery is here going to the kidneys and the renal vein is there, and then the hepatic portal vein goes from the gut to the liver, and then the hepatic vein is going from the liver back to the heart. This is a picture of a vein and an artery. It's easy to see that this here is the vein because it's got a massive lumen and small walls, whereas this is the artery because it's got a tiny lumen but really thick walls. Next, we need to outline what the lymphatic system is. Now, basically, it's part of the circulatory system, and it's got its own vessels, and they carry a clear fluid liquid called lymph, and it goes towards the heart. Now, not all tissue fluid from your body returns to your capillaries for transport. Basically, you have tissue fluid in all of your tissues, and a lot of it returns to capillaries to enter the circulatory system, but not all of it does. Some of it enters the lymphatics. Now, lymphatics, the vessels, are thin and they're blind-ended, which basically means that they are dead ends. At the end of the vessel is a dead end. Now, the function of the lymphatic system. Now, the lymphatic vessels join to form two major lymphatics, and these two empty their contents into the blood around the neck. Lacteals in the villi of the small intestine join the lymphatic system, and they basically get fats and other substances from the small intestines, put them into the lymphatic system for transport around the body. You call the fluid lymph, and most movement of lymph is due to compression of skeletal muscles. So when you're moving, that is when the lymphatics will force the blood around the body as you contract your muscles and squeeze the lymph around the body. Now, they have valves in them to prevent backflow. They're similar to the SL valves or the valves in the veins. And again, it travels in one direction towards the heart. Okay, here's a picture of where the lymphatic system enters the blood at the base of the neck here. So the lymph vessel here, or the lymphatic, enters the vein here and here. That's the two main vessels. And then obviously veins go towards the heart. So then these veins go towards the heart, and then it joins the circulatory system in that way. Okay, further down in this picture, you have your lacteals shown there, which are in the small intestine, which drain fatty acids into the lymphatics. You have lymph nodes, which are basically swellings in the lymphatics, where you will store lymphocytes and phagocytes, which are involved in the immune system. That there is a group of lymph nodes. Now, like I said, lymph nodes are swellings in the lymphatic vessels, and lymphocytes and phagocytes are basically white blood cells which are used in the immune system. Bacteria is destroyed by white blood cells in the blood normally, but if not, then by white blood cells floating around in the lymphatic system. But if not there, then they will be destroyed at these lymph nodes where there will be lymphocytes and phagocytes waiting for them. This is a picture of a lymphatic vessel, and you can see there the valves with the pockets and the flaps, just like the SL valves or the vein valves. This picture here just shows how tissue fluid goes from tissues back into the capillaries as it would normally, but that some of the tissue fluid from cells can actually go into the lymph vessel as well. This picture here just shows how a lymph vessel looks through a network of capillaries. Again, notice that the blood comes at high pressure from the arteries and arterioles, and then the pressure is reduced, which gives lots of time for substances like carbon dioxide and oxygen to be transferred from cells to capillaries and from capillaries to the cells. The blood loses pressure and then joins the venules and then the veins. Tissue fluid there from the cells is entering the capillaries, but also tissue fluid will enter the lymphatics as well. You may need to identify or label this diagram in the exam.